My name is Darrell Rader. I'm the president and CEO of Minaurum Gold. Just before we begin, I'd just like to highlight that we'll be making several forward-looking statements. Please do your due diligence prior to investing. Minaurum has all the ingredients in place to advance the next Tier 1 silver discovery in Mexico. We have a track record of having discovered over 300 million ounces of silver, over 60 million ounces of gold in our careers. We have a strong shareholder base that we'll discuss a bit here. We have a portfolio of district-scale projects, but most notably our Alamos Silver project is the flagship project, which I'll be discussing today. As far as our team goes, we have extensive experience in the silver space. I started in the silver industry with a miner, moved on to starting a couple of companies such as Defiance Silver and joining Minaurum Gold when I was approached by Dr. Peter McGaw, who's the founder of Minaurum. You may also know Peter as having been the founder of MAG, which was a great takeover success here very recently. More notably, most recently here, we brought on the resource modeling team of Silvercrest, led by Ruben Molina, who's now the project manager. And we'll sort of be talking a lot about what their results are, especially on the modeling, and as we move to our maiden resource here in the coming months, the effect that team has had in the development of the targets. On the cap side, the major things to note is our share price is in the mid-30s. We have approximately $8 million in the treasury, market cap around $150 million. We currently trade about 500,000 shares a day in Canada and just over 200,000 shares a day in the United States on our OTCQX listing. So the Alamos Silver project, this is just a bit of a map to help you locate where the project is. As Victor was mentioning, the silver space and the history in Mexico. Kind of a neat fact was the first mint, as he had stated, was built in Mexico City. The second mint was built in Alamos, and it's still there in the town of Alamos. And the mint in Alamos basically received its feed from our Alamos Silver project, which has a lot of historical mining history and some large historical mines in it. The other thing to note is we're in an area of great infrastructure. You can see Cobre del Maya, which is that picture there, is Mexico's third largest open pit copper mine. They are our neighbor to the immediate north of the Alamos project. So when we got involved in Alamos, we had an idea of what we wanted to see on this project, basically a criteria or benchmark. And what we wanted to see is that this was a high-grade district. It had Tier 1 potential. It was a district, not just a small isolated vein with a high-grade silver shoot, which are pretty common in parts of Mexico. We wanted to see at least 50 million ounces high-grade in the district with the potential to grow into the hundreds of millions of ounces. And we wanted to see something with infrastructure. We've worked a lot of years in Mexico, and after a while, when you're an hour or 2 hour drive away from a concrete paved road, you start realizing, even when you make a discovery, the costs of producing are so much higher because you're away from infrastructure. So after having drilled 51,000 meters, we're actually up closer to about 56,000 meters now. There's historically been done, over 10,000 meters have been done historically. Our average grade so far in drilling is about 365 grams per ton silver equivalent. We've done metallurgical testing with very strong recoveries. We have discovered 26 separate veins. We drilled 19 of them, and 12 of them returned high-grade results. And when we came to the project, there were basically 3 known vein systems, and we increased that to 26. As it states there, we still have a lot of the project to explore. Most notably, we are just completing our infill drill program. We have about another 4,000 meters left of the 10. The idea is once we get those assays in, we're then going to be getting our maiden resource out, and that should, as I said, come here in the next couple of months. There is a bit of a delay in assays, as many of you know right now, with all the money coming into the industry. Assays have slowed down a bit, so that's what basically our holdup is to getting the resource out, so we're just waiting for those assays to come in. The other thing, the keynote here for the project is we are fully permitted. We have full underground mining permits in place, so basically we could start, turnkey operations whenever we desire to do so. And so our plan here is just to get this maiden resource out as soon as the assays come in and the drill program is done, and then start working immediately on an updated resource that we hope to get out by next summer. And then at that point, we'll probably look towards maybe moving this towards a PEA. One of the keynotes, as I mentioned, is the permits. This is where I believe the significant sort of re-rating potential comes from Minaurum. Our peers are getting significant values in the market. One of the aspects for Minaurum is we don't have our maiden resource out. I think once we get the maiden out and we continue drilling and getting updated resources out, that allows us to play catch up while our peers are sitting and drilling, but waiting for their permits to come into place. One of the longest lead items in building a mine in Mexico is not actually construction anymore, it's getting the permits so that you can actually construct a mine, and that's what we have, and we're, as you can see, one of the very few players that is a discovery stage with permits in place. You can see here basically the grade. We talked about how important high grade is. Our system so far has been pretty wide, 4.8 meters. For those of you that have followed our more recent news, we're starting to consistently hit 30-meter intercepts running 300 grams per ton silver equivalent plus. And that's something, as we're doing more infill drilling now, we're getting a better grasp of the mineralization, and our targeting has improved subsequently. You can also see it's pretty polymetallic. We have very good grades of copper, zinc, and lead as well with the silver grade. So as I mentioned, our plan here is get 50 million ounces out. What we decided to do was when we went into this project, we knew it had district scale potential. Our exploration team was led by Dr. Peter McGaw. And what we decided to do was prove that this was a district by drilling all over the district. So over about a 5,000 hectare area, we drilled, as I said, we drilled 19 separate veins, made 12 high-grade silver discoveries, and then that entire drilling was probably about 35,000 meters of exploration drilling. And at that point, we decided to target 3 key areas for our maiden resource. And I'll get into those 3 key areas. You can see them here: Promontorio, Travessia, and Europa, Guadalupe. And those will form the foundation of our maiden resource. Then to do our next resource update, which we plan to do with drilling from November through to summer of next year, we don't have to make new discoveries to grow to 100 million ounces. We just need to drill off the existing discoveries we've made. And I'll get into a little bit of what those discoveries are as we proceed. So the first area we're going to be putting into our maiden resource is the Promontorio vein zone, which includes Travessia, which is a separate discrete system, but just a couple hundred meters along the vein. You can see some of the grades here. This is a bit of a lower grade silver, high grade base metal chute that we're drilling off. The widths are pretty strong at 5 meters, silver equivalents running around 365 grams per ton silver equivalent. The key thing to note here is from all the veins that we've been drilling, this is the primary base metal vein. And so we anticipate that as we get our maiden resource out and do follow-up drilling on the new targets, we're going to start seeing that silver grade go up consistently, just because a lot of our targets are primarily silver, and this one is just a bit more base metal. But as you can see, we've had recent holes of 14 meters true thickness, over almost 600 grams silver. Even though it's base metal, it can deliver a lot of high-grade silver. The next few slides, I'm just going to flip through. This was a discovery that the Silvercrest team made when we brought them on to do our resource modeling. They put this all into leapfrog models, and we discovered that some of the veins that we thought were kind of horsetailing are actually stacked vein systems, sort of similar to Gato, similar to Las Chispas. And this has improved our understanding of the vein systems, but also it's increased basically the amount of tons we can add in every hole, because every hole we drill on these main targets is now hitting 4 to 5 discrete vein systems. And you sort of see that here. So this is one of our primary veins. You can see some of the old workings there. Most of our drilling is in new areas. You can see everything from 8.8 meters of 422, 2 meters of 857. So that is, on the cross section, you can see that's one of the main veins. Now we hop over 20 meters. It's mineralized in different areas, but in different areas from the previous vein, it's delivering 7.3 meters of 488, 15 meters of 326, including a kilo silver over just under a meter. You hop over another 20 meters or so, now you're in a different vein system that's delivering results such as you can see 13.4 meters of almost a kilo per ton silver. So this is an easy way now that we're doing our infill drilling that we're adding ounces, and we're going to see that in the maiden resource here very shortly. Europa, I think, is a bit more of a kind of a silver signature that, as I mentioned, you're going to see in our systems moving forward. You can see the grade here is low base metals, very high grade silver, 358 silver on average. Pretty strong width at 3.1. Our discovery hole there was 8 meters of 1,700 grams silver along with base metals. So this is another target that our targeting team and resource modeling team has been working on. What I can say is, I said, we're about halfway through our infill drill program. We are seeing these 2 high-grade chutes starting to connect via infill drilling. And this is ultimately probably a target that's going to add half of our expected maiden resource, probably 25 million ounces or so to the maiden resource. But we're seeing significant potential above that 25 million ounces that we'll continue to drill once the maiden resource comes out. So path to 100 million ounces, as I said, we are not looking for new discoveries here. We have the discoveries. We have 12 separate high-grade discoveries in the camp. 3 of them are going to the Maiden. We've targeted another 4 for the next resource expansion. You can see them there, Minas Nuevas, Quintera, San Jose, and Pulpito Catera. The location map shows you where they're located on our claims. Key thing to note is we have permitted 5,000 hectares to production, and we're focusing our efforts in that 5,000 hectares. And that sort of as a size comparison, if you look at like Las Chispas from Silvercrest, that was a 1,300 hectare project. A lot of projects are a bit smaller than this. This has a lot of scale. And it shows you on the side here what the larger concession map is. So this is 5,000 hectares of our 37,000 hectare claim. We have veins all throughout this entire project, but this is where the historical area was, where you had good infrastructure, paved highways, and that's why we decided to focus there with our initial resource. Minas Nuevas is one of the first targets that we're going to be drilling in our resource update drilling, probably early in the new year. This is the only target on our project that has a historic resource. We have a lot more work to do to prove up the historic resource. The historic was about 15 million ounces of 300 grams per ton silver. They didn't assay for anything else. Our last hole we drilled here was hole 99 that returned just under 10 meters of a kilo silver. So we know this is a high-grade system. This is one that we're going to be drilling off, putting into the next resource that we do. Quintera was the most significant historical producer here, over 100 million ounces mined. One of the things we see at Quintera was when this thing was mined over 150 years ago, they didn't have the whole concept of these stacked vein systems. And this is actually on the same vein as Promontorio and Travessia, which are going into our maiden resource. We have only put one hole here, but we see the potential for similar to Promontorio, where at Promontorio, there was a historical mine where there just hadn't been any drilling work done. We went at depth where we started hitting mineralization up to 150 meters below the deepest workings. We found these parallel vein structures that hadn't been mined, and we think the potential for that exists at Quintera, and that will be drilled come early in the new year. So catalysts, the key, as I mentioned, is getting this 10,000 meter infill drill program done, which was designed by our Silvercrest team that we brought on. We are more than halfway through. Once these assays are in, we're going to publish our maiden resource here, and then we're also continuing additional metallurgical studies on the key targets as we move forward here. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Darrell. We have a couple minutes for questions. If there's a hand up in the back there. Just wait for the mic, please. Thank you.
How about changing your name to something with silver in it?
You know, it's a work in progress. We've actually been talking about it for over a year, and we've been receiving some pushback from our legacy shareholders that love the name as it is. But yeah, our intention is ultimately to change the name, and then as we get our maiden resource out and start drilling to get that resource update out as I was discussing. I think one of the things we'd also like to do is change the name, but also look at getting a better U.S. listing, because I think that's a natural progression in this market.
Any other questions? We have a minute. So in a minute, can you tell us a bit about the mineralogy and the relationship to go over to the mine?
Oh, I think we have a question.
Oh, we do have a question. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal someone's question. Please. No, please.
No, it's okay. Your question may be easier. So
plus mine is a long question. I'll catch you later.
Could take 30 or 40 minutes to answer that one. Just curious, like how many concentrates do you think you might have ultimately here?
Well, the early stage met testing we've done thus far has been focused on 2 concentrates. I think ultimately what we're doing now with our met testing, it's a much more intensive program where we're going to do a lot more, a lot more time trying to keep it in the vats, get a better leach idea, because ultimately what you're going to be doing is you're going to be picking and choosing a bit. So you're obviously going to prioritize silver, probably copper, gold as well, and then you may have to give up a little bit of zinc and lead. But everything we've done so far has been kind of introductory metallurgy, and the whole reason behind that was just to ensure that there's no deleterious elements in the mineralization, and that we've proven. And now let's figure out what the ultimate recoveries are and the best cons. So that's something that I can't say will come in time for the maiden resource, but the work's already underway. We've contracted the group in Tucson to do that met testing, but it's a sort of a 3-4 month process that we're just in the middle part of.
Great, thank you. And that was pretty spot on timing. Thank you, Darrell.
Sorry, Victor, I didn't get your
No, that's